everybody, so today I'm back and today I'm going to be reviewing a trio of books. So this is something I'm going to be trying to do more and more, is reviewing books in kind of groupings, because I think there's quite a lot of genres at the minute that are quite popular and there's a lot of books coming out in a similar vein. I think it's quite interesting for me and for you guys watching as well to see kind of a comparative thing. If you're interested in one of these books, you're going to be interested in the others as well. So it makes sense for me to talk about them all in one go, and it makes it quite interesting to compare them quite directly as well. So in this case, the books I'm comparing are all in one of my favourite genres, possibly my actual favourite genre, and that's medical non-fiction. This is something that's taken a really big leap in the past few years. There's been a lot more stuff, things that do no harm, which did really well, When Breath Becomes Air. And this year, this summer, there's been 3 or 4 massive ones, and I'm really excited to share 3 of those with you today. So the first book is by the author of Do No Harm, Henry Marsh, and it's Admissions, A Life in Brain Surgery. So Do No Harm was quite an interesting look at what it was like to be a neurosurgeon. Kind of dealt a lot with specifics of what it's like to work with patients, the actual mechanics of surgery, the process of becoming a doctor. And this is much more about Henry Marsh himself. It's kind of a biography of him. It covers his younger years, his journey to being a doctor, his journey towards the end of his medical career, which is where it's at now. But he's a really interesting guy. He worked all over the world in more deprived countries, and he's just an interesting guy with a really interesting variety of hobbies and backstory. I did miss some of the anecdotes. I love those little anecdotal notes about working with patients. That's what I found really interesting in this, because I think part of me wishes I could have been a doctor if I didn't hate blood. So this gives me, it's like a little insight into that world. It's a little window. This doesn't do that quite as much, but it's a really interesting look at what a life of medicine can do to a person and how it's quite hard to escape from that at the end. So if you enjoyed Do No Harm and you loved Henry Marsh's voice, this is a really great one to read. So the next book is quite different, and that's Your Life in My Hands by Rachel Clark. So Rachel Clark was one of the main voices behind the junior doctor strike and all of the issues that rose up there against Jeremy Hunt in the past couple of years. So this is quite an interesting political look at what it's like to be a junior doctor in the NHS nowadays. It's almost written a little bit like a thesis in that it's basically building up this case as to why junior doctors in the NHS need to be supported more. It's got a really interesting way of doing that. It incorporates loads of anecdotes, loads of little bits of what it's like to live as a junior doctor as well as work as one, and about what it's like to work as one, especially in the modern environment with everything that's currently going on. It's just a really interesting look at all of that. She's a brilliant writer. It got me really riled up because she really makes the case so well. And I think there are very few people in the world, very few people in the UK who disagree with the NHS and like what is particularly happening to it at the minute, and this really mobilises behind that and gets you really thinking about the state of the NHS, what's going to happen to it, and she's just such a great speaker, you get really involved and invested. The last one is a whole different game, and that's This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. So this is based on Adam Kay, who used to be a doctor, his diary from when he was a trainee through to a junior doctor until he left the medical profession. He's now a screenwriter and he writes comedies, and he is hilarious, and you can see that all the way through this. It's loads of funny little anecdotal bite-sized chunks from his life of what it's like to be a doctor, the kind of patients he's worked with, the kind of absurd situations he's encountered, but also in a more serious tone, why he moved away from being a doctor, why he decided to give up medicine, what it was that drove him away. It's absolutely hilarious. There's some really funny clips and animations and things on YouTube to go with this, so definitely have a Google of Adam Kay and just see what comes up. He did a really interesting interview on Russell Howard recently where he was talking about it in the issue, and it's just so funny. You really get a sense from that of what the book's like, and I think if you've not read this but you're interested in the NHS or you just want quite an entertaining, funny read, this is absolutely brilliant for that. So that's the 3 books. Now, it's interesting to look at them as a group, because even though they are all medical non-fiction, they're all quite different. So Admissions is quite biographical. It looks over that more generally. So if you like that kind of the story of the guy behind the surgical mask, as it is, that's a great sentence. I never thought I'd be saying that. Well, that's brilliant. I'll take that. The guy behind the surgical mask, looking at what that's like and the effect that's had in his life. Admissions is the one for you. It's really interesting. If you want something about kind of the modern state of the NHS and the political side of that, I know how that's being affected at the moment. It's really impassioned. You definitely want to read Your Life in My Hands. And if you're after something that's quite funny, a little bit more light-hearted, but actually because it's quite light-hearted, it's quite hard-hitting with the comments it's making about the NHS and what's happening to it. But I think you should definitely read This Is Going to Hurt. I think if you're not massively interested in this genre anyway, then I'd be surprised you're watching this video, but well done for sticking it through. then this is going to hurt as the one to go for, because it is quite conversational, it's quite interesting, it's got so many funny anecdotes. The things that some people do, and specifically put up themselves, is really quite traumatising, and it's just a really funny read to look at those things. But I think it's just great to see so much medical non-fiction at the minute, so much good medical non-fiction. I've yet to read anything I didn't really enjoy, and I think that's really important. That's a really powerful thing about what the genre's like at the moment. But these are 3 great books. I definitely advise you read them all, and I think that it's a really positive sign that things about the NHS specifically and what it's like to be a doctor, which has quite often been quite a closed-off society, are now becoming much more available to everybody to read about. So there you have it. That's my coverage of 3 great medical non-fiction books from this summer. They're all really different and all really interesting, but I think you should definitely take a look at them all, because I think they all offer something really unique and interesting and enjoyable. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the books. If you've read any of them, do let me know. I know Adam K is everywhere at the minute, so it'd be great to hear your thoughts on those. But also at the same time, it'd be great to know if you have any other recommendations for medical non-fiction. I like to think I'm quite covered on the genre, but there may well be more that I'm missing. And I'd also like to hear your thoughts on this kind of 3-way review. I've got a few other books that I want to review in pairs and trios at the minute, because they match up with quite a lot of themes and things. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what that's like. Normally I'd do 60-second reviews, but this feels a bit more in-depth and that I can actually talk about a subject more. And when it's something that I like as much as medical non-fiction, I'm really keen to do that. Other than that, my links for Twitter and Goodreads and all the usual stuff are down below, so do hit me up however you want to. Look forward to hearing what you thought about this in the comments. And if you enjoyed, a thumbs up and a subscribe would be super appreciated. I'm not far off 1,000 subscribers now, and I'm definitely not counting down till I hit there. I'm planning to do quite a big giveaway when we get there, but I'm just really thankful for all of you people that are still sticking with me even after a break, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some more stuff with you in the next few weeks. But other than that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with my next video.